Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for pricing. Today, we discuss a 2020 model year launch made in only 25 pieces from Debethune of Lauberson, Switzerland. This is the DB28GS Yellow Submarine. So the DB28GS is part of the Grand Sport collection, and as of 2019, newly with interior dynamic lighting, a dive bezel, and a timepiece in this iteration that is entirely fired yellow grade 5 titanium. So we're going to unpack all of that, but fit comes first. The watch is 44 millimeters in diameter, though thinner than it looks at only 13 millimeters thick. From lug to lug, with the lugs fully extended, 54.4 millimeters, but they are spring-loaded variable geometry floating lugs, a patented system, and they compress to 50.4 if you retract them inboard. They can fit a smaller wrist, so 4 millimeters of lateral displacement. We have a 26 millimeter spacing between the lugs, though you will note that the strap is somewhat integrated in its profile. It flares out beyond the interior of the lug profile. So if you want to put a 26 millimeter strap in there, it will work, but if you want the perfect aesthetic, you need to go custom or use the Debethune factory strap right here. And the watch also comes with a leather strap, so it's got two straps, and you can choose which one to use, but you want to use the rubber if you're going to be using it as intended. It's 105 meters water resistant. You can see brand new Debethune factory strap on the bottom. Over here, a feature that is not universal on Debethune watches. Even most of the DB28s feature pin buckles, so the presence of a full deployant clasp is an elite accessory that is here to prevent droppage of the watch in a marine environment where the waters might be very deep indeed. You can see that it features the same fired yellow titanium exterior, and that the buckle matches the profile of the lugs, and that's by design. Taking a look at the end of the lug, you can see the ogival, or torpedo tip, bullet tip, rocket cone, however you want to describe it. One of the last styling vestiges of the original DB1 chronograph of 2002. That was the company's first product, and this little ogival lug tip has endured on almost all models since then. You do have the spring-loaded lugs. You have a screw-down crown, which you can see here likewise is fired to match the tone of the case. The watch is 105 meters water resistant, though part of the reason for the screw down is to prevent damage of the crown against the mobile lug profile. And then we float over to the base, where you can see there is a trigger for the dynamic lighting system, and microlight, which is a special type of engraving that's executed with an engine. You can see these parallel grooves, and Denis Flageolet, who is the co-founder and watchmaking lead at Debethune, he decided that it would be best if the company had something that was like traditional guilloche, but not as frumpy and antiquarian. So this microlight was created, and then we could see it again on the dial where it's been used internal to the case, and yet again on the reverse when it's been used externally, but also internally on the plate surrounding the mechanism that underpins the power reserve indicator. And flipping back, you can see this is in fact the Yellow Submarine 105. That's right, not 100, 105 meters water resistant. Debethune's deltoid screw profile designed to take more torque than a standard flathead and also prevent fatheads from trying to work on the watch, so it keeps unqualified watchmakers out. Being a fired coloration on the case and bezel, should it ever be worn through or scratched, when the watch goes back for service, it can be fired again, which means that this coating can be restored. Now we have here a bezel that is a 60-click unidirectional rotating dive bezel. You line up the index with the minute hand. Now you have an impromptu 0 to 60 minute count-up timer, which I find to be even handier than a chronograph. You should note that the bezel is designed to be read while dynamically backlit, not generally in ambient light, which is why it's a little bit difficult to discern some of the features of the bezel. At an angle here with reflection, you could see the index 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. But if you really want to get the maximum benefit, I'm going to show you both forms of the luminescence. One is a passive lume created along with Black Badger and James Thompson. The other is the spectacular dynamic dynamo luminescence that's driven by the mainsprings and provides about 30 to 60 seconds of power. You can see now the bezel is backlit, and it's very, very easy to read the bezel. You can also see that little repeater governor right there, minute repeater style centrifugal governor that slows down the discharge of the energy from the barrels. And then you can see the motion of the power reserve indicator over at 9 o'clock, and you can see it's actually moving quite slowly given the amount of light being generated by the dynamo to those 4 LEDs. Jumping back, the rest of the movement mechanically will be familiar to debethune fans. So twin barrels, self-adjusting, another patented system, and they have 5-day power reserve. You cannot accidentally overwind these barrels, so they're dynamometric in that regard. You can't accidentally damage them. There's a little power reserve indicator hiding over in the corner, 35 pivot joules. The movement is 30 millimeters in diameter, so it nicely fills this dial. You can see a 4 hertz beat rate balance. We have a silicon escape wheel to reduce friction and rotating mass and susceptibility to magnetism. It's just a little bit difficult to see under the balance. The balance is easier to see. You can see it's made of yellow-fired titanium with white gold masses in its rim. Denis Flageolet has created 10 distinct debethune balances, each patented. There's a lot of patents in this watch, but this is the 2016 patent, and he changes up the design every time he finds a way to reduce the effect of temperature change on the timing of the watch, maximize the percentage of total mass in the rim, and also minimize the effect of aerodynamic drag on timing. We have a full balance bridge for better bracing against shock, but with 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs. It's called triple parachute. It's patented, again, and it's there for both durability, that is to prevent damage, and for chronometry. It actually improves timing. We also have a hairspring, which, although not manufactured by debethune, is cut and formed by debethune to a proprietary curve that also is protected by patent. The result is a nice flat hairspring that has the thinness of a flat hairspring and the shock resistance of a flat hairspring, but the concentric breathing qualities of an overcoil. Now you can see between microlite, the black polished and yellow fired surfaces, the beveled edges of the fired bridges, the satination of the wheels, media blasting on the base plate. You could see black polish and continuous beveling on the edge of the fired balance bridge. And if you look at the flanking springs in steel, you can see that they've been satinated on their top and then mirror anglage treated on their sides. So finishing here is to the highest standard and traditional codes. What else can I offer you here? Well, the watch has a center seconds hand, which is very unusual on a DB28, extraordinarily unusual, in fact, and I believe this is the only debethune watch that has a loomed center seconds hand. Also important to note, the watch will disable the LED system before the movement stops. So generally what it'll do is it will stop the lighting while there's still a day's worth of power reserve in the manual wind movement, so you can't actually stop your watch through the use of the LED system. So there's a little bit of a fail-safe built in there. It is very sophisticated movement in a very sophisticated watch from a brand that does things entirely its own way. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.